Hello, loved ones. Welcome to the Whose Life Is It Anyway podcast. We made this for you who are now ready to help create a world that works for everyone. Enjoy.
Hello, everybody. We are talking to Wendy May, and she's a purpose coach and purpose activist, and she is the pioneering author of Regenerative Purpose. She's a Harvard alumna, and also has a graduate business degree from UCLA. And she's writing, speaking, and coaching, and facilitates deep purpose alignment to help create a world that works for everyone.
Wow.
Which we really love.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
purpose. Tell us more.
Yeah, it's, first of all, I'm really grateful to be here. I know it was a little bit iffy the last month since I came down with COVID, whether or not I was going to be able to participate in the summit. So I'm very happy to be able to be here and to be part of this. I think that these topics that you're addressing are really important, in this sort of pivotal moment in history for humanity. So thank you for putting together this summit.
Thank you for wanting to take part.
Yeah. And what can I say about purpose? This is something that I spend many hours and weeks and months and years of my life thinking about. And relative to the current situation, I think that it's something that has become really popular as a focus. I think a lot of people over the last 2 years have had massive shakeup in their entire world, in many different dimensions. So it's natural, I think, that we're really considering now, what does it mean to be alive and be a human being on this planet at this time? And how do we make that a meaningful process? And what does purpose have to do with it? And I guess what I want to share, it seems a bit radical, maybe, my proposition, but I would be bold and say that I think that we're mostly, for the largest part, doing purpose wrong. And when I say we, I mean like most of the self-help industry around helping people to find their purpose, in my view, is a bit misguided, because what we're doing is we're applying an old framework to kind of a new topic, but we didn't really inherently change the core of how we are approaching it. So let me try to explain what I mean by that. So it's the mistake or the error, I think, has to do with getting confused between the form and the experience that we want to have. Okay. And when we say we want to have a life of purpose and we want to experience purpose in our lives, I think mostly what we're looking for is this feeling of being alive, being empowered, being engaged, feeling connected, contributing and creating. And because there's so much focus on it now in the mainstream, it's gotten a little twisted, I think, that we started to now apply some of the same process that we use for the old idols of money and status and power. We're using the same kind of linear, object-oriented, goal achievement focus and trying to use this to find a purpose. Yeah. So people feel this sort of, a lot of people that I work with and talk to about this, they feel this sort of frustration or anxiety almost that, like there is this kind of deep longing and yearning to want to be in service and to be connected to the whole, be in harmony with nature, with community. And there's something missing from it that seems blocked. And there's almost this anxiety or shame about, I didn't figure out what my purpose is yet. I'm sort of missing it. Like, what am I doing wrong? And I think it's because we're applying the old way of doing things to, something that I think is a positive evolution for sure, to be focused on seeking purpose rather than seeking power or money or status. But yet, if we use the same approach, the fundamental how of what we're doing didn't really shift deeply.
Right. Okay. I can see that, like I think I talk about this a lot. We moved like 150, 200 years ago into this, like from this agrarian, like most of us were in agrarian societies, many places around the world, they still are. But if you were like, you grew up on a farm with your mom and your dad and your uncles and your cousins all around you, and you were part of a close-knit society, and your purpose was fitting into that. And like there was a cycle you were fitting into with nature and everything else. And that gave you a sense of purpose. Like there may have been a longing away from that for some, but like after a while you fit in, and then there's a sense of purpose in that. And you go to,
I am needed.
I am needed, and my role is important. And there's no, like, you don't have the measurement that we've had the last, I don't know, since we moved into like factory workings and the modern workplace, where it's like you're measured on your productivity and
now
your
you're not needed. You're a
Well, it's two things happen at the same time. We became more disconnected, but more connected. So on the one hand, like, you know, I can speak to you from halfway around the world while I'm in Thailand, and we have an audience of people that are everywhere and they can access this information instantly. But at the same time, people moved into their one-bedroom apartments and they get everything online delivered to their door. They don't need to walk down the street to even have a personal interaction with the person selling them vegetables. You know, you don't have a relationship there anymore. It's just coming from Amazon or something, you know?
And the person that is selling you, like now the person that is selling you stuff or bringing you stuff doesn't have a personal relationship with it. But where we are here, we're in a small village right now, and when we go into town, we go down to the fruit sellers, the fruit vendor, and they have a personal relationship with the food they're selling to. So there's connection there too. But how do we get back to where we have purpose, and we are at a junction in time where you also need to make money? As like, it's a separate thing, making money, but we have to, at least until we transition into something else, we have to have that means of like getting our needs met. So how do we both have a purpose and get our needs met physically?
We have a lot of things to figure out in terms of the way that we do exchange. And part of this process of awakening, I think, has to do with this shift from what I would say more of ego-driven purpose, which is this idea that you have a single fixed purpose, which is the mission and the meaning of your life, and that you can get a coach and discover it, or take a test and diagnose it, and then you put it on a business card, and then you're done. You know, that's it. And I don't think that's how it works. You know, my experience of purpose, this really deep level of soul purpose, it's not something that you can put a name on. Most of the time, it's very dynamic, it's fluid, it's multidimensional, and it's interdependent. So it's not something that you can sit in a room by yourself and figure out. It's actually a co-evolutionary process that requires us to be in conversation with life, to constantly be paying attention to what's happening in the world around us, to be listening to the signals that we receive, but also being selective about that, because there's so much information that we get now that it can be overwhelming and it completely floods the system, and then we're paralyzed, right? So actually in my book, in Regenerative Purpose, what it's describing is a inner work purpose, which is around aligning yourself with purpose as a natural flow of life. Like my sort of baseline assumption is that purpose is a law of nature, basically, that it's not something that we need to manufacture, that we need to figure out from the mind. It is actually the impulse of nature moving through us when we release all of the conditioning that blocks us, all of the systems and the rules and regulations and expectations and roles and all of these heavy things that we took on. When we get rid of this, purpose happens automatically in a way. And that the way to access it is not about looking outside and trying to find a thing that you can then put your personality around, but to clear yourself, you know, like as a vehicle for a bigger plan. And that the way that you do this work is by cultivating certain qualities in yourself. And the 4 qualities that I talk about in Regenerative Purpose, I mean, I can go in a long story on each of them, but I will just name them quickly. They're authenticity, which is really just the expression of your true self, but more importantly, the expression of your whole self. Because of conditioning, mostly we edit out some parts of ourselves that we think is not appropriate, that society rejects or the family rejects. Another one of the qualities has to do with attunement. So this one I mentioned a little bit already, and it has to do with filtering all of the information overwhelm that we get to make sure that we are like a radio signal tower, open to specific channels and frequencies that are really going to direct our activity in the right direction, and that we're filtering out and ignoring all of the rest of the noise and not getting our energy drained from all of that negativity. The other two qualities has to do with this balanced giving and receiving. So you mentioned about, we need to make money, right? So money is one aspect of that, but I would say instead of saying we need to make money, it's that we need to be supported and nourished to be able to be sustainable in offering the purpose, right? So there is a movement of energy out in what we give and what we express and what we share. And there is some movement of energy in, which it can be money. And for most of us, we do live in a world where money is the main currency, but it can also be other forms of support. It can be free housing. For example, the office that I'm sitting in right now, I'm house sitting for a friend who is away. I'm not paying any rent, and I'm actually doing her a favor by taking care of her place during the monsoon season so that it's not getting too wet and moldy here, right? So this is a exchange, like we created value out of nothing. I have this beautiful space where I can do interviews, and she has someone looking after her place. So we need to also be broadening our mind about what is the medium of exchange. It's not only money, it's many, many different things. And when we start to be creative about all of the resources we have available to us, we can see it's not a resource problem, it's a distribution problem. We have so many things that are unnecessary and that are gathering dust. And then we just need to move those to a place where they're useful and becoming more multidimensional in the way that we do exchange. But anyway, I got a little bit off track there. Just to finish, the other two qualities, they are responsiveness and receptivity. And responsiveness is basically, it's the energy that you're giving, but it's giving from presence. It's not giving from an idea of something that you think is good for the world because you have some savior complex, but it's actually responding to what's alive and what's true and what's real by paying attention and being present and moving from a place of love instead of fear. This is what responsiveness is. And receptivity is opening ourselves to be supported in many different ways, in connections, in recognition, in space, in time, in money, physical objects as well, introductions to people. All of this is currency.
That's awesome.
I like that.
This is really good. I don't think you're actually strayed too much off the path. I'm assuming we're talking to a mostly westernized audience, and we have all these, everything's been so compartmentalized and monetized. So this thing with connection, connecting back into cycles of nature and connecting back into what is of value is not just monetarily of value, but that you're house sitting and we are house sitting right here. So we're actually both sitting here doing someone else a service just by sitting in that chair and sitting in these chairs and taking care of something. And I mean, we have a roof over our head. We haven't paid anything for it, but we have money monetarily, but by our service, just being here and then being able to help others through doing that.
And
exactly,
what you said about we have too many stuff. We have too much stuff. Not that long ago, it was our son's birthday, and I said, "So, what do you want for your birthday?" And he said, "Because we've been away from our country for 2 months now,
almost three."
And he said, "I don't know what I want for my birthday because I don't see that many commercials and ads anymore, and I don't talk that much with my friends, so I don't know what they have." And now Christmas is coming up, and and I thought to myself, I need to wish for something for Christmas, And I didn't know what to wish for except for world peace and for this to end, you know.
Yeah.
So I really had to dig deep and think, what do I want that is material, like a, what's it called?
No, that's fine.
Material.
Yeah, material good.
Material, yeah. So
Yeah.
I found like 2 or 3 things that I wanted,
I have no idea what I
this
want.
is not our house, so I
Yeah.
can just fill it with stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was really weird, because normally I have no problem wish for things, and now it's not things. I want something bigger and like energy, like love and connection and
Yes.
peace.
Yes. Yeah, so I think, I mean, as we're expanding in consciousness, people are starting to realize there are different dimensions of feeling nourished and supported. It is not only money that sustains us. Actually, that money is only just a symbolic representation of what is really keeping us alive, which is connection, which is community, which is this feeling of being part of the fabric of reality, that we cannot be separate, you know, that there's a feeling of interdependence. Yeah, like, so I have my corner of the universe and I am sort of the supreme ruler of that little world, but that little world is just a node in a huge web, and this cannot be cut off, you know, that I cannot be an island by myself, you know. And if anything that we learned in the last 2 years, it should be that, you know, that what anybody is doing anywhere in the world is affecting everybody else. And it doesn't matter what your wealth or your education, whatever privilege that you have. There are certain things that we're really in it together. Doesn't matter if we're talking about global warming or a virus, or it's like, if you're part of humanity, you're going to feel that. Yeah.
If people go out and get your book, will they get the tools they need to discover their purpose?
Well, I would say it's not quite so simple. This is the reason why this approach is a bit of a hard sell, because it's easier. It's much more tempting when a coach or somebody says to you, like, oh, like, you know, I have a 5-step formula and you can just fill in the blanks and then you're done. Yeah, I'm not selling that. Actually, what I'm saying is that this is a lifelong process and it will never be finished. But what I can say is the feedback that I got on the book is that for many people, it opened up a new way of thinking about purpose that was very liberating for them. You know, I heard people say, like, wow, it's such a relief, you know, this feeling of like, oh, like it's not all up to me to figure it out, like this kind of relaxation that comes when you realize that you're part of a larger process, that we're in this like kind of human mandala. And anyway, it's kind of moving and morphing and evolving on its own. And sure, you can develop skills and you can develop awareness and you can cultivate these qualities that allows the experience of purpose to move in you more easily. But it's not something like you reach it and then you're done. The whole point of what I'm saying is that purpose is alive. So as long as you are alive, it's changing. So the thing that you think that you got, a minute later, it's going to be something else, you know, especially with the speed of change that we're experiencing now. It's just, you cannot keep up with it, you know. So the moment that you get an identity around something, or you get fixed and attached to something, pretty sure it's going to be ripped out of your hands. So like, it's more about being fluid and rolling with, you know, learning to basically surf life, you know, to be able to be moving with the waves and to not suffer so much about the cycles that are going much more quickly. You know, regenerative purpose, the reason why I named the book this, is really around mimicking the cycles of nature, which in nature, creation and destruction are balances that need to be in, like forces that need to be in balance, basically. And in this kind of, I don't know, last 500 years that we were in this kind of industrial economy, it was all about creation and building and kind of making an empire, you know, more. And clearly we see what doesn't work with that. You know, we need a balance of the force of destruction, and we need to bring the sacredness of this counterbalance, this counter cycle back into a place of honor and not a place of fear. You know, that we don't need to fear the death and destruction cycle, but this is actually part of what needs to be included to make life more alive, that it actually brings the authentic, genuine impulse to move and to give and share in love, more so than holding on to the structures and trying to build an empire for yourself personally as an island separate from the rest of humans, you know?
I really like the way you put things. Like I can feel things moving around in my mind right now. It's very, very good.
Very good. Yeah, I'm happy. Yeah, I have a lot of passion around this topic, you know, because I feel like it's really, there's something that there's a lot of suffering around this idea of purpose, you know, that we created it into another object that we need to acquire. And this is like, I see this happening, and I'm like, no, we're missing the point, you know?
Yeah.
So it's really a honor and just pleasure for me to have an opportunity to share about my way of thinking about this. And I hope that, you know, whoever is listening, maybe they also get a little bit of like a little, you know, spark.
Yeah.
And maybe they're curious to get the book, which is offered as a free gift. There's also an audiobook version. If you don't like to read the printed or the digital edition, there's also a discount code to get the audio version so you can listen to it. Which is also like how I like to consume content now, so it's by audio version, so I don't look at the screen so much. But yeah, I hope it can be of a support and inspiration for everybody who is kind of in this moment trying to find their way.
Hey, thanks for watching. If you liked what you just saw, head on over to whoselifeisitsummit.com/podcast, where you can find full-length episodes as well as in audio format, and we do a lot of other cool stuff. You can hang out with us and other like-minded individuals who want to create a world that works for everyone, and we do that on our platform where we can chat, and we have Q&As and exclusive interviews as well. So there's so much to get over there, so come on over and play with us.